The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, have failed again to reach an agreement on issues surrounding the threat by the union to call on an all-out strike.
At a meeting called by the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TTF Fund, the two sides failed to agree on the issue of quote and allowance for lecturers.
And after an 8-hour meeting, Senator Jibrin Barau disclosed that leaders of the union were going to make consultations with their members on the way forward.
Somebody may argue, I said, we are in recession. When we were not in recession, what did they do? The agreement we entered into with the federal government was in 2009. Were we in recession? 2010, nothing was done. 2011, nothing was done. 2012, despite all the letters, series of letters, and all that. The Memorandum of Understanding 2013, was it done during recession? So how would somebody now say recession? When the country was not in recession, did the federal government do anything? So the issue about recession does not come in here.
Right, before we go into our talk time fully, let's take a quick break and return.
Glad to have you back, and we're talking ASUU federal government Impasse. We have with us in the studio the Lagos State University chairman of the Academic Staff Union. For short, we've said ASUU chairman, who is Akinroye Oyewumi. Many thanks for joining us.
A pleasure.
Really, the bottom line is money.
No.
One of your demands.
Okay, one.
The bottom line at the end of the day is money. And the federal government said there's no money to pay that.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I think we need to get more serious. I've been in this studio and I've listened to two speakers. The first gentleman was from the energy sector. The other gentleman discussed transportation, specifically the rail system. We are on the educational sector now. Perhaps when I take my leave, somebody from health will come on. The question then is, those who are leading this polity, are they serious at all? Where is the seriousness coming from? And I quickly go to the fact that those who were in this union before us warned over 20, 30 years ago that the path our leaders were taking will lead us to nowhere. I don't want to sound so hard to use the word destruction. The way we are going about it, we are simply bringing this country closer and closer to the precipice. We hope it doesn't happen.
But there are those who would say that ASUU has hardly been proactive in terms of ensuring that we don't get to the precipice. Every time, every now and again, ASUU goes on strike and then it goes back. Warning strike, it goes back with the aim not achieved. So, what are the options left to ASUU apart from going on strike so that you can actually get these demands met? And we do hear that government has met some 7 out of the 8 demands. You want to shed light on that for us?
Well, we have an 8-point charter of demands this time around. One of them appears to have to do with money, the way you have put it. And that is the end academic allowance of members. And I want to ask not only Nigerians, I want to ask anybody in the world who would want to come to trade his or her logic to the effect that when you work, you should not be paid. And that's the issue. And it's quite unfortunate that we have agreement on this since 2009. We had to reverse the strike the way you have put it correctly. In 2013, when the Memorandum of Understanding was signed. But now we are back because people in government just go back to sleep. will not do what is needful, will not fulfill
Or if a
the
government
obligation
has
referred
met
to a
7
part.
out of 8 demands,
Okay.
they've tried, don't you think?
Those other 7 are issues that, as Jermaine has this other one, you have criteria, and then you can reduce this to the criterion. What we are saying now is that if we have worked since 2009 and now, we should not be paid. We just take it, it's an holiday again. We go back so that we can come back the way it's being described here now.
Okay, if
At least for
government
once.
takes one of the other 7 demand, if they strike at one of the other 7 demands and meets this demand, this particular one that has to do with money, would you call off the strike?
Every other item on this charter, if you know what they are, all of them have to be met. The way we are running our universities, it appears those who are leading us do not understand the import of education. And we perhaps have heard this phrase that if we think education is costly, we may just try ignorance. So all of this that we have brought forward, they are not limited to this 8, but we just think that if this 8 can be satisfied, we can have something resembling a peaceful, meaningful university environment where we go on.
What is really at the crux of the matter? What's the crux of the matter? Is it the welfare of universities? Is it the condition of service of the lecturers? Or is it the standard, the quality of education that universities are giving to students that it churns out that the universities churn out every year?
Thank you, ma'am. These 3 aspects you have listed are just not there. We are starting from the revitalization of the public university systems. I want to believe that we attended universities about the same time. These places are a ghost of their glorious selves. No laboratories, no workplaces, no equipment. Staffs are not just happy because the take home cannot take anybody home. And the staff schools, as we speak, where our children are to be trained, are locked because government says it cannot pay the teachers in those staff schools again. My child is at home from a fort that is not mine. And you want me to be happy to go out and deliver to train others. We are human beings, for goodness sake.
Government is saying, just like Solami said earlier, the wage bill of about 145 billion monthly, government just does not have the money to pay. So is ASUU looking at other creative ways, outside of the box ways of raising funds for universities?
Creativity. You want ASUU lecturers to go and raise funds for the administration of the university to pay them.
The university system itself.
That appears to be the question you are asking.
University of Lagos has some form of commercialization that allows it to raise funds to meet its both academic needs and all of that. Isn't that a model that other schools should be looking at?
To a reasonable extent. The business of the university is not to raise funds in the first instance. From the name called university, it's a universal phenomenon. And what goes into it is not limited to the shores of Nigeria. The agreement we have is the average of what obtains on the African continent. We didn't even go to Americas, we didn't go to Europe. You've quoted a particular amount of money now monthly. You say 1 point whatever billion or 14 billion. Let's ask ourselves, less than 0.5% of us that are in the leadership, from the councillor to Mr. President, how much do they take monthly? What is the business that they do that make it so wonderful that they take 10 times of what all lecturers in the university earn monthly that the government cannot provide?
This your demand covers both the federal universities
public
and
the
state universities, and you're aware that most of the states, as it were, are bankrupt. For lack of a better word, really, they can't even pay civil servant salary. Perhaps a good intention at the wrong time.
The question need be asked then: how did we get to these bankruptcy states? The lecturers round the state bankrupt. And I have said earlier, they won't listen. The path they take and the type of government we run is rather too costly this presidential system of government.
Yes,
Why do you need
we
this
do
bipolar
understand that.
house of
The essence of this discussion is to find out what the possible way forward is. Buhari has said, ASUU, please be a little patient. These problems were there before we came on board. Can you give us a little time to look at all the issues that you've raised so that we can actually solve them one by one?
This
Is ASUU willing to give...
That excuse is inert and cannot be activated on the dialogue of the issues that we have placed on the table.
Why
we
not?
will be patient for the next 4 years, for the next 8 years, that an agreement that is as old as 8 years will be satisfied. You take just 1 year out of 6 that was agreed, satisfied halfway, and you want the university to collapse on us before we now get started on how we are going to go forward. It doesn't just work that way. It doesn't work that way. I think what they need to do is to get to the nitty-gritty of the essence of their offices. What is their expectation for this country? What is their expectation for the Commonwealth? Do we really need to train the young ones to be able to take over from us tomorrow? Or we run this place as any other motor park that you have no person, you have no idea, whatever happens goes.
Now, speaking of that, there are observers who are saying that since the colonial era, since the University of Ibadan came on board, not much has been done to change the university curriculum in such a way that it can meet the peculiar demands of Nigeria. And nobody is hearing ASUU say anything about changing the curriculum to tackle the challenges that Nigeria has.
That would be farthest from the truth.
Okay.
The curriculum of the universities is not a joint action of a body. The NUC is to oversee the administration of these universities. And this is one of the problems out of many that our leaders have with the university system. There is what you call the autonomy. The autonomy gives the university to have its own curricula developed and you go through it. But what I think I will agree to is that we need to, at different points in time, get a pause, check where we are on the continuum of development in view of where the world is tilting to, and then what is needed. And then we refine our curriculum to suit that. But to say that the universities do not have a curriculum that is befitting, it's not a business of a body, perhaps the NUC. It is the business of the universities to keep reviewing and updating the curriculum.
Okay, so
and
categorically,
that I can say,
categorically,
in most of these universities.
Categorically, would you call off the strike if the government agrees to pay by installment, or without the complete payment, no deal?
I should not bite more than I can chew. You know the answer. You want to put some words into me.
No, I'm asking a question.
My
job is to ask.
The point, Ma, is that we've activated a 1-week warning strike to intimate government, and that is the only language they understand, perhaps the only one they can hear. Because we have written several letters, we have made overtures, we have been to the offices of the Minister of Education, we've tried the presidency before we get to that point. Now, as you have said before I come on board, that week had come and gone. We will meet at the National Executive Council level and we would be strictly scientific. What I refer to as allutocracy, the science of aluta. We would look at everything in total, and whatever it takes by the truth, you can be rest assured that ASUU will give it to it. If there is no need for us to go forward by the assurances of the government, we won't. But if it needs that we call the shots and it takes 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, only God knows, but you can expect only the truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, finally, before we wrap, are you concerned that these strikes may just be counterproductive at the end of the day when it comes to the main factor here, which are the students themselves, and how is it affecting them?
People who refuse to learn from the lessons of history are simply consumed by it. We have our children in the universities, mine there. And like I said earlier on, we are product of these universities with all of these hiccups. Not until the other side of the table get up and get going with their own responsibilities. ASUU, as we all know it, is an association of intellectuals that understand that it is when the going gets tough
That the tough get
that
going?
the tough gets going. And so whoever is destined to make it out of this unstructured system will do. But whatever it takes to make Nigeria get to the promised land is what the union promises.
Okay, and the promised land is where we're hoping to get to, and we hope it will be earlier than much later. And that's where we have to wrap the show this morning on TVC Breakfast. Isaac Akinloye Oyewumi, ASUU chairman of the Lagos State University. Thank you so much.
ASUU chairman.
Thank you so much for being here. We've hardly scratched the surface, but time is always not a friend. And on that note, we want to say thank you so much for being a part of TVC Breakfast this Wednesday morning. I am Ngozi Alemu.
And I am Busola Mituashi. Let's do this again tomorrow, bright and early.